What's up guys, welcome back to another video. So I'm making my predictions for the Champions League knockout stages. Obviously they've done the whole draw so I can do all of it. But of course if I get something wrong then it's going to mess up the whole thing. Starting off though, PSV Arsenal. Now Arsenal are in a pretty bad state right now. They've got very few attackers. It's very hard for them to score goals. PSV have done very well. They beat Juventus, which is a big achievement. But Arsenal defensively are so strong and I think they will have enough about them to get through. Then the big one, you could say, the Madrid derby, Real against Atletico. Real have tortured Atletico in Europe over the last decade or so, beating them in 2 finals, beating them a couple other times as well in the knockout stages. Cristiano Ronaldo has now gone. Both fixtures in the league between these two ended 1-1 this season. Bellingham suspended for the first leg. I just don't think we're going to see that Real Madrid attack work in this tie because they all want to play in the same position. And when you're coming up against a team as good defensively as Atletico Madrid, you kind of need a focal point. With the second leg also being at the Metropolitano, the atmosphere there is going to be fantastic. If Atleti can get into that home game with the tie level, I think they'd go through. And I'm backing them. Come on Atleti, please knock these cunts out, I beg. It's time for revenge. It's going to be so cringe if they get knocked out now, Jesus. PSG against Liverpool, probably the 2 most informed teams in the competition. And the Parisians have a great chance in my opinion. You know, the Liverpool fullbacks are both horrendous. Like, defensively especially. Trent Alexander-Arnold got absolutely crucified by Doku. And PSG have Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Doué. And while none of them are quite as good 1v1 as Doku, because I don't think any player in the world is a good 1v1 against a fullback as Doku is, they're all still extremely good 1v1. And he might as well just not even be there when trying to defend because he can't stop anyone. Then the other side, you know, you've got Dembele or Kvaratskhelia playing on that side against Robertson. That's a mismatch. And whichever one of them is playing in that false 9 role will drag Konate and Van Dijk out of position. And they don't like that. They like playing against a physical striker who wants to sit in the box. Of course, Liverpool have a huge threat of their own. Mohamed Salah. Nuno Mendes is going to have the game of his life to keep him out. He's going to have to be on it for all 180 minutes, maybe more if it goes extra time, because Mohamed Salah just needs one moment. In terms of the midfield, I think it's very close, but I'd actually back PSG's midfield. Vitinha, João Neves, you've got Warren Zaïre as well. All 3 of them brilliant. Fabian Ruiz is also playing there. Kang In Lee's played in there. I am backing the Parisians to get through. I think they'll win at the Parc des Princes and they'll go to Anfield. They might lose there, but they won't lose by a big enough margin to get knocked out. Club Brugge against Aston Villa. They met in the group stage. Bruges actually won that game 1-0, but I think Villa will go through. Realistically, they kind of need to. They should have the squad, you know, this is why they invested in January in players like Asensio and Rashford. And Unai Emery typically does very well in Europe. You got Villarreal to a semi-final while knocking out Bayern Munich. Now to the other side, Benfica against Barcelona. These 2 sides also met in the group stage. Barcelona won 5-4 in Portugal. A bit of a dubious game, but I think they should get through again. Their games are always mad entertaining. They play a suicide high line, but they've got such mad firepower going forward. Rafinha, Yamal, even Olmo, Lewandowski, all of them fantastic players. Dortmund against Lille. Now I've gone with a bit of a shock here, but I think Lille are going to go through. Dortmund have been awful this season, and Lille beat Real Madrid. They beat Atletico Madrid. Then an all-German affair, Bayern Munich against Leverkusen. They've already played each other 3 times this season. Both games in the league finished 0-0 with the respective home team in each game completely dominating. Leverkusen did knock Bayern Munich out of the cup. However, you look at the 2 squads, and in terms of firepower and, you know, just star names, Leverkusen only really have Wirtz. I know Keller and Grimaldo, Frimpong, all really good as well, but in terms of game changers, Wirtz is the one that you look at, right? Because at Bayern Munich, you've got Harry Kane, you've got Musiala, you've got Elise. You're the midfield overall, probably a bit more balanced. You've got Kimmich, you've got Pavlovic, you've got Palhinha, who hasn't been used anywhere near enough. You think now is a time where he will get used a lot. Defensively, Bayern Munich aren't great, and in terms of managers, Xabi Alonso is so far clear of company. But the star power at Bayern Munich, I think they will just get through, but it will be very close. And finally, Feyenoord Inter. Now, Inter have only conceded 1 goal so far. Feyenoord have done very well though. They came back from 3-0 against Manchester City. They smashed Bayern Munich. They sold their star striker to Milan just to knock him out as well in the last round. So they are a good side, and Inter can't afford to underestimate them. But I think Inter should get through. Right, quarterfinals now. Arsenal against Atletico, first of all. Well, this is a tough one, man. Both of them this season at least have had similar principles, very strong defensively. Saka should hopefully be back for Arsenal in this one. And that is huge, because if he isn't fit, I think Atletico go through without any real issue. But with him back, I think I'm going to give it to Arsenal. I think they'll just edge past. However, this is a really tight one because of how similar they are in terms of play styles. Simeone knows exactly what he's doing in Europe as well. Arsenal defensively are so strong as well. PSG against Aston Villa. This is actually a very big one because Unai Emery is coming back to his old club. He failed at PSG. He lost the league within 1 season. and he also did not get past the last 16 with them in the Champions League. PSG are just so strong right now, and as long as I don't have any injuries, or at least not too many major injuries, I would back them to get through against Villa. I think away from home especially, they are atrocious. They concede far too many goals. Going to the Parc des Princes is very, very intimidating, and PSG should be able to get the job done. Barcelona against Lille. Lille have beaten the two other Spanish giants, Atletico and Real, in the group stage, but I think Barcelona just have too much firepower going forward and they will get through. And then Inter against Bayern Munich, a huge game here. They're kind of the two opposite sides of a coin. Bayern Munich, not great defensively, good going forward. Inter Milan, unbelievable defensively, not amazing going forward. But I think Inter will get through because Inzaghi is just a genius. Arsenal PSG in the first semi-final, two capital clubs going up against each other. They met in the group stage and Arsenal won that 2-0 and it was so convincing. You know, PSG were awful on that night. It's going to be a lot tougher this time. PSG have now clicked. They are so good. With how strong Arsenal are defensively, the fact that Bukayo Saka will be back, I think PSG will probably dominate at least the home game and it'll be even away at the Emirates, but I think Arsenal will just have enough about them and they will get through to the final. And then on the other side, Barcelona against Inter. These are the two complete opposite sides of the coin. You've got Barcelona play a suicide high line, concede loads of goals but score even more. Inter Milan never concede, don't score a lot. I remember the last time this sort of tie happened was Juve-Monaco in 2017, where Juve were not conceding any goals, Monaco was scoring for fun, and Juve won fairly convincingly. And this time, I do once again think the defensive side will come out on top. I'm backing Inter to get to the final, but for the second time in 3 years, Inter will be in the final against an English team. We've seen it so often over the last few years where a team will lose in the final, they'll come back a couple of years later, and then they'll win it. And I think that will happen again. Inter will beat Arsenal for the second time in the Champions League because they did win in the league phase. Although Marino was robbed of a clear penalty, Arsenal were the better side on that day. But Inter just have something about them, man. They've only conceded one goal, obviously, by this point. You probably would have anticipated they've conceded a few more, especially if they do end up playing Barcelona, who score for fun. But I'm backing Inter Milan to win the whole thing. I think they will become champions of Europe again. And Simone Inzaghi will announce himself as the best manager in the world. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'll see you soon for that video.